Welcome back. Well, South Sudan still owes neighboring Sudan $1.3 billion from a 2012 deal that ended a dispute over oil payments between the two nations. This is according to the former Deputy Finance Minister Mo Ambrose Think, who was removed from his post by President Salva Kiir last week. The previously undisclosed amount is equivalent to 8 years' worth of oil revenues for South Sudan at current prices. In 2012, South Sudan shut down oil output after it could not reach an agreement with neighboring Sudan, its former ruler, on payment to use its infrastructure to export crude from its oil fields. South Sudan eventually agreed to pay $3 billion to Khartoum in a late 2012 agreement. South Sudan is also supposed to pay royalties fees for each barrel of oil it exports through Sudan. But Think said Juba still owes $1.3 billion of that original amount. In the meantime, here a Dutch law firm has asked the public prosecutor in the Netherlands to file a case against Royal Dutch Shell, its CEO, and former executives of over what it says were criminal actions relating to a 2011 oil field purchase in Nigeria. The Dutch authorities are already investigating the oil field deal alongside Italian prosecutors who want to take Shell and Italy's Eni to trial over alleged corruption on the same oil field. Shell and Eni have denied any wrongdoing. Shell said on Tuesday it did not believe there was any basis to prosecute the company or any current or former employee. Campaign group Global Witness has published several reports on the 2011 deal in which Shell and Eni secured the oil prospecting license 245. Global Witness and others say much of the $1.3 billion in payments for the block did not go to the state, but instead went to Dan Etete, a former Nigerian oil minister who was convicted of money laundering in France in 2007, and to Malibu Oil and Gas, a firm that previously held the rights. And Nigeria's foreign reserves currently stands at $38.2 billion. This is according to the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele. Mr. Emefiele, who was speaking at the commissioning of Unilever new blue band factory yesterday in Lagos, said the ILE window introduced at the FX market has brought a lot of transparency and confidence, which has resulted to inflows of about $10 billion into the countries between April and now. According to him, considering where Nigeria was in 2016, a lot has been achieved.
During this period as well, we've seen, because price of crude had dropped from an average of at least over $100 per barrel, had dropped to as low as, by February 2016, had dropped to about $28 to $30 per barrel. Of course, naturally, what this meant was that we suffered very serious hemorrhage in the FX reserves, and these were all sad stories. To the point where we say for instance, January 2014, Nigeria's reserve was about 40 billion. By October 2016, it had dropped to about 23 billion, just because of a hemorrhage, because we're not creating into reserves again, because what we're receiving in revenues had dropped by close to about 70% between August 2014, even up till very recently. But I'm happy that today we're beginning to sing very positive songs. Our stories are looking good at this time. To the extent that during the third quarter of 2017, gross domestic product reported a positive of 1.4%. Inflation had receded from the level that I talked about in January 2017 of 18.7% to as low as 15.9%, and we're very optimistic that it to drop, to moderate even further down. We've seen reserves move up from the $23 billion that I talked about in October 2016, and as I speak today, reserve is $38.2 billion, and I think we all deserve a round of applause. This CBN itself had to intervene very aggressively in the forex market. We put in place several policies, foreign exchange management policies, And this resulted even in us opening what the famous investors and exporters window, which has brought in a lot of transparency in the foreign exchange market, and confidence has seriously returned into the market at this time. In 7 months, we've seen over $10 billion as inflows into the country between April 2017 and up till now. And I'm seeing inflows that have come in not just as a result of foreign portfolio investors coming in. We've seen foreign direct investments coming in, and part of which is even this project that we have come to commission this afternoon. As a result of adversity, that was almost about 18 months ago, Yo and his team came to my office and said, yes, you said that you will restrict foreign exchange to import blue band margarine. Please, Governor, we want you to please give us some kind of allocation or waivers or something. I said, Yo, what do you produce margarine from? Oil, water. And we saw it now. It's just mixing oil and palm oil and water. That's what gives you blue band margarine. And he said that business was shut down because of China. I said, you know what? That plant needs to return back to Nigeria. Let's do something about that. That's what I would love to see. I'd love to see that plant return back to Nigeria, because Nigeria is the market. With 180 million people, Nigeria is the market. It's not that country that you dismantled the machine from here and you took the machine to that country. That you need to get that plant back so as to create jobs here. And people can consume your margarine here. And he said, okay, it will take about 12 to 18 months. That's okay, yeah. 12 to 18 months is a deal. We'll give you some forex or some allocation for you to be able to import your blue band margarine. And for me, I feel happy that he kept to his words. This is purely, again, as a result of the confidence in the Nigerian economy. And I can assure you, demographics, everything you talk about, it favors Nigeria. But of course, can also be a problem for Nigeria, right? When you find people of the young, active age of between 18 and about 46, right, dominating the population range or population chain, it could be a positive and it could be a negative. Positive, because they are active, they can make more children, they can ramp up the rate of population, and today it's about 3%, I understand, per annum, which is very dangerous for us if we don't plan to make sure that we feed them.
Nigeria's Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele. And finally on the program, residents along Kenya's coastal shoreline are conserving coral reefs and mangroves as communities become aware of the new benefits of protecting marine life. Now, corals help harbor fish and also attract tourists each year, while cultivating mangrove forests is helping residents earn carbon credits from international buyers who pay for carbon storage.
Fishermen and other residents in Wasini Island hope that they can replace destroyed coral reefs with new ones to help harbor fish and draw hundreds of thousands of tourists who come to visit Kenya's coast each year. The project was started in 2014, and the fishermen were later trained by conservationists on how to cultivate the coral gardens. Boat operators help fund the program, while divers go down on the ocean floor to cement the corals in place.
The coral has already improved our livelihood here in Wasini Island. It has made the island famous by making it a tourist attraction.
About 20 kilometers away, another project at Gazi Bay has also seen residents get cash payments for keeping mangrove trees for carbon storage. Communities measure the size of the trees in each plot and calculate their rate of growth to come up with a figure for their carbon storage capacity and to generate carbon credits.
Here in Gazi, we get 1.5 tons per hectare. That is a carbon stored below ground. And if you add the one which is stored above ground, which is up to 500, you are talking about 2,000 tons of carbon in the system.
Residents who are protecting and replanting mangroves on over 100 hectares are now selling 3,000 tons of carbon credits a year to international buyers for about $5 to $6 a ton. The money goes into financing more forest protection and restoration and to community-chosen projects.
In the last 100 years, we've lost at least 1/3 of the world's mangrove forests. They're being lost at a rate at 3 to 5 times higher than average deforestation rates of other forests. So these are very vulnerable ecosystems.
Under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Kenya has committed to reducing emissions of climate-changing gases by 30% by 2030.
And with that, we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Thank you very much for watching.